should have beat them.
Yep.
And Clemson made it a one-score game, right?
Right.
Texas, if you look at Texas's season, they've done this a lot, right?
Yep.
Remember the Vanderbilt game?
The Vanderbilt game. They didn't pull away from teams they probably should have pulled away from, like Arkansas. I mean, even the A&M game, it's like, that's it?
And the
That's all you
A&M
got?
game, they were clearly better for 4 quarters.
Yeah.
But remember, Ewers decided, I feel like throwing a pick six.
Sure.
I'm going to tell you now, you play the way you've been playing, Ohio State's going to have the band in that game in the third quarter because they're going to beat the hell out of you.
What I've seen out of Ohio State, and we're going to have plenty of time to break these games down as the week goes along, just kind of preliminary surface level thoughts. What I've seen out of Ohio State in the first 2 games of the playoff is the closest thing I've seen to 2019 LSU since that Joe Burrow
Totally
team.
agree.
Closest thing.
It reminds you of the Joe Burrow or that Bama team with Mac Jones 2020.
Yeah.
Or, any of the dominant teams we've seen, dominant single-season teams, this team is playing like one of those. Well, look, we said it before the season started. You paid for arguably the most talented roster in college football.
They weren't shy about it.
And they really were underachieving most of the year.
Yep.
And, look, we all questioned them after Michigan, right? We all did. But maybe that's maybe they all went to the locker room and after they cried and cuddled and did all that stuff after Michigan, maybe somebody actually got angry. I don't know.
Yeah, or somebody went to Chip Kelly after the game and said, hey Chip, you got 2 of the best receivers in college football. I do? Maybe you should throw to them more. And, it's worked.
Right. And the other part is, again, maybe it's just the fact that you're not playing anybody wearing maize and blue now. I don't know. But that's
a good strategy for Texas.
That's our joke. That's our joke. Texas, wear Michigan uniforms. It's the only chance you have. I'm with you. I think Notre Dame and Penn State will be close because I think they're going to bore us to death.
It screams low scoring, like 13-10 type of game.
I feel like if this thing is past a certain number, it's advantage Penn State.
Yeah.
Penn State's got the better skill position players. It's just Notre Dame is so good at the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball, the way they maul you. Look, if Penn State doesn't turn the ball over and if Penn State plays clean, they should win. I just don't see Notre Dame's offense, because Penn State's defense is good, let's face it.
Yep.
I don't see Notre Dame's offense going up and down the field in a high-scoring back-and-forth game. Look, no offense, Riley Leonard's a cute story. He runs the ball. You got slobber knockered in the Georgia game and got up and got a first down and everybody went woohoo. He can't throw the ball down the field.
Yeah. If you can force him to throw, which that was the MO for Georgia going into that game, and it didn't happen. If you can force him to try and beat you with his arm, they're not going to win.
If Notre Dame doesn't get turnovers, they can't beat Penn State.
Yeah, they live off of them.
Especially red zone turnovers.
Yep.
I mean,
as we saw last week,
Georgia killed themselves. 2 red zone turnovers and a kickoff return for a touchdown. The Georgia defense was good.
Yeah, they played. I mean, when you look at the numbers that Notre Dame put up, ran for like $160. It's not like, wow, oh my God.
And Riley Leonard threw for under 100.
Yeah, but they didn't need to. That was they did enough to win, and the Georgia offense kept shooting themselves in the foot and keeping themselves out of the end zone.
Yeah, so I think Notre Dame Penn State will be the close one. I'm with you. I think Texas takes I think Ohio State takes Texas apart.
Yeah, I do too.
I really do. I just think Texas hasn't played to their talent. Right now, Ohio State's playing to their talent.
And look, I don't have a dog in the fight for either one of these games, but I'm not sure how I feel about watching Ohio State maul Texas. Do I want the SEC to be successful? Do we all just hate Texas collectively? I've made no bones about my hate for the color orange.
You know what's funny? I don't want to see any of these 4 teams win the national championship. My personal fan, the personal fan in me.
Honestly, I'm in the same boat.
I don't want to see any of them win.
We're gonna watch the games because of course we are. But I don't have my team's out of the NFL playoffs. I'm rooting for the Lions. I want to see the Lions win the Super Bowl. That'd be cool. But the last 4 teams left in the playoff.
Right. I'm just I don't really particularly care for any 4 of you.
Maybe because Freeman, because he's dreamy. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm just jealous. I'm jealous of the look and the hair.
Do I want to see him be more successful and be handsome? No.
No, because you know what? You're that handsome.
Do I want the egos of Ryan Day or James Franklin to have a national championship? Do I want Texas to be able to beat their chest after 1 year in the SEC, say we're the best, even though they lost to Georgia twice? I don't want any of those things.
And all 4 teams are programs, and everybody wants them to be good so bad, even though Ohio State's been high level for a long time.
Sure.
But the other three have been
Yeah.
in some way, shape, or form. And now they're there finally where they really should be. And it's like, there's no cute story here.
There's not.
There's no cute story with Penn State. There's no cute story with Notre Dame. There's no cute story at Texas. There's no cute story at Ohio State. It's four blue-bloodish programs playing for the chance to win a national championship. Really doesn't make you tingly.
Doesn't.
No. All right, there was basketball this weekend.
Was
one
there?
Good? Well, okay, there was one basketball game this weekend. We'll talk about it next. Halftime show. Terry Ford, Tyler Head. Dave's here. Austin's hanging around stealing food or something. We're here till 3 on the halftime show on the game. All right, it's 2025. Maybe it's time to do something new to the home. Maybe you want to change up the kitchen. Maybe you want new appliances, a new cool stainless steel refrigerator. Maybe you need a dishwasher that actually, when you put dishes in it, it works and cleans. Maybe you need a new microwave. Maybe you need a new stove, whatever. I mean, there's one place to go to, and that's the Nest. 1331 Gadsden in the Vista. Call 803-978-2025. Let them know what you want to do when it comes to redoing that kitchen. Say, look, here's what I'm looking for. Here's my vision. Here's my plan. Here's my budget. You talk to one of the experts at the Nest, over 70 years of experience there. You will talk with that expert. They'll bring you in, sit you down. You go over your plan. They'll walk through the beautiful showroom, tons of options, and they will get it done for you in your budget and make your vision come true. It's the Nest in Gadsden, 1331 in the Vista. Just call 803-978-2025. Set up your appointment at the Nest.
Gamecocks again. Gamecocks again with the basketball, and Zach Davis is going to get a layup and a foul. Good feed from Pringle as he felt the double team, and as you said, it's that weak side opportunity that has been there throughout this early going to the second half, and Zach Davis's big day continues.
Yeah, that's one of the few highlights from Saturday. It was not pretty.
I actually debated not pulling any highlights because there wasn't really any, but Zach Davis did have a career day, so we'll give him that.
I mean, Zach Davis, I'm going to say this. He was aggressive. He didn't back down. He kept going. He kept fighting. God love him. I mean, there were some shots he made, and you were like, that was nice. And there were some times he was like, a little over-aggressive. But you know what? To me, if I'm Lamont Paris, I like the fact that I had one guy who had his foot on the gas.
Somebody, please.
Somebody. And the rest of, I don't know. It was, look, you're going to have games you just can't shoot. You're going to have games where, you know, what's that dumb saying? You can't fall out of a boat and hit water.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it happens. That's basketball.
It's basketball. But when you playing defense and rebounding and going after loose balls and getting the floor burns, that's all effort.
Yep.
The thing for me, if I'm Lamont Paris, is where was my effort? Where was the fight? If you're going to go down swinging, go down fighting, this team did not guard. They got out physicaled. They got out hustled. They got out everything. And that's concerning to me.
And again, this is the first game of conference play where, you know, the level of competition is about to step up every single game compared to what you've done over the first 2 months of the season. If this was the first time we were having this conversation this year, that's one thing. But go back to the North Florida game where they lost in the first game of the season. Effort was questioned. Some of those other games, effort was questioned. The last two games against Radford and Presbyterian where, you know, you and I could probably get out there and beat those teams. You're down at halftime. Effort is questioned. And we're doing the same thing here against Mississippi State. If you're not there and 100% locked in, ready to go against every team in the SEC, this is going to happen more times this year.
You're going to get boat raced.
You're going to get run over.
Well, here's the thing, too. I'm just thinking, if I'm South Carolina, I should be geeked to start conference play.
Sure.
I should be ready to rock and roll in Starkville. Last year, the Gamecocks won in Starkville. By the way, last year, remember, that thing was a rock fight.
The first game and then the overtime game at the end of the regular season that you had they bookend your regular season.
Yeah, and you, look, Chris Jan's teams typically make you really work on offense in general.
Yeah.
They want to force difficult shots. They want to make your life miserable. So you're going to get, now Mississippi State this year is much better on offense than they were last year, to their credit. But when you play a team like this and makes your life difficult on offense, that means you just got to tighten the screws on defense, because you know I'm going to have to do even more on the defensive side of the court, because today offense isn't our friend, and if we want to win this game, we got to find a way to scrape and scrap to get our points.
And that was one thing that made last year's team so successful. They could get into those rock fights. They could sling mud with some of the more aggressive teams in the SEC, and you saw them win a lot of games because of that, including against Mississippi State. And again, it just looked like they didn't belong in the same league with them on Saturday.
And it just looked like they weren't interested. I mean, look, if a team is starting to make buckets, you should be slapping the floor like Duke on defense. And he was like, okay, we got to guard them because we're just not making. It's just not our day offensively. We've really got to tighten up on defense to stay in this game. Mississippi State got so many free looks and open looks and easy layups and runners and fast breaks where there was nobody even, defending or trying to, do anything to stop the flow of offense. That was my thing watching it, going, these guys, like, are they bored?
Yeah.
I mean, what are we doing here? Do they want to go home and watch the playoffs? I don't understand.
And when you are on offense, and this has been the case throughout the entire season, early on in these games, it just looks clunky. You're having turnovers, bad passes. It just looks like they're out of sync, like they haven't practiced all week long. And again, when you're playing against high-level teams every single game in the SEC, you get off to a bad start, you're going to find yourself down 20 points in every game.
It wasn't pretty. And here's Lamont Paris postgame talking about didn't do too many things well in Starkville. Cut 3.
All right, I'll try to simplify it as much as I can. They did a lot of things well, and we didn't do very many things well at all. And just we played poorly, I thought, in a lot of different ways, as shooters, as passers, as decision makers, a lot of facets. And so sometimes it's like that. This was the first SEC game for a couple of guys on our team that play heavy minutes. So welcome to the SEC. But we also have a lot of experienced guys that also didn't play great. So some of it, I don't want to take anything away from them. They played well. They did. And as you get a combination of one team playing well and one team not playing well, you're going to get a wide spread. And that's what it turned out to be. So but they have a good team. They played really hard. They competed. They were tough. They attacked the rim. And then we at some point just didn't have the fight.
Yeah, that's the thing in not having the fight. And to his point, Colin Murray-Boyles played here last year. Miles Stute played here last year. Jacoby Wright last year was here. Morris Ugasek was here last year. Zach Davis was here last year. These are guys that were part of that team that fought so hard last year. Yeah, the leaders are gone. But these guys have to step up and be the leaders.
They do. And one thing he mentioned, guys being new to the SEC, I think he's specifically talking about Jamari Thomas. Dude looks shell-shocked. Mm-hmm. Dude looked like he got a rude awakening in the SEC because they were slapping the ball out of his hands left and right. And again, he doesn't have the same size like Talon Cooper. So, going up against some of those bigger guys is obviously going to be an issue for him at times. But, man, he looked like he was not prepared for what they were throwing at him. And that it could be a long season for him if that's the case.
His size, getting his shot off was an issue Saturday. He was 1 for 8 from the floor.
Yep.
And Mississippi State has some long, athletic guys. They're a physical basketball team. And I think that's the one thing that disappointed me was Mississippi State brought the physical. Mm-hmm. South Carolina didn't bring it back.
Right.
And I think if you're Lamont, that's what's got to really bother you is effort and the lack of physicality and fight.
How many times did Colin Murray-Boyles get the ball down low and there were 12 white shirts around him and just getting mobbed each and every time, and they held him to 5 points. He sat on that one three-pointer through the majority of the game before making a layup late in the game. But, yeah, they just were out. They were manhandling them over the course of 40 minutes on Saturday.
It was a bunch of men playing against a bunch of kids. It just was.
It seemed that way.
All right, let's get another one, Dave. Cut 4 real quick. Lamont, no reason why this result happened. 4.
So, I don't know. We didn't play well. I looked at our game last year at Mississippi State. The opener was at our place, and we were atrocious. We were atrocious offensively. Stagnant. Just made enough plays, but we also went into halftime with a lead because we defended on a consistent basis, on a reliable basis, and we're still learning how to do that. So, and then we got out of it, and then defensively we weren't doing what we needed to do, and then that also one end affected the other end, unfortunately today. But I don't know why it was a bad start. We just didn't have it. If Colin struggles like that, it's a real struggle. He's a good player. It was a real struggle. I don't know. If you ask Chris Jans if they changed dramatically what they did against him last year when he played really well in here. It just he had a poor game. So amongst others, we had some other guys too.
Well, one thing real quick is last year Colin Murray-Boyles wasn't the focal point of the offense game in and game out. Now he is.
He's your best player. You take him away, and again, Zach Davis did his best, but nobody else really stepped up.
I mean, again, teams are now game planning to stop Colin Murray-Boyles.
Yep.
And when you're doubling him and tripling him and quadrupling him and doing all that stuff to get the ball out of his hands, A, he's got to make a quick decision, and B, other guys have to make that team pay.
Right.
And they didn't do it, obviously, Saturday. We'll get to the women coming up here in just a little bit. It ended up being a good day on Sunday for the women after a slow start. It's a halftime show. In case you just woke up, here's what's been happening in the world of sports. That is next here on The Game. All right, what we're talking about is maybe you just woke up. Maybe you slept in. Maybe you slept a lot. Maybe you popped a melatonin or two. Or
Well,
3.
It is the longest week of the year. We're all returning back to work for 5. There's no holiday this week. I'm assuming most people aren't taking vacations this week. So, yes, we all have to bite down and take on the 5-day work week.
You know what? That's what it's become. Once you get to the last 2 weeks of any year,
Oh, well, you're checked out.
everybody's checked out. People are on vacation. Even if people are at work, they're not really working.
Yeah.
So now it's back to, okay, let's take this serious again. Back to work, everybody. Let's roll.
Yeah, you got to start answering those emails that you started putting away on December 17th and things like that.
Really, from around December 20th until today,
Oh, yeah.
people have been like, yeah, whatever.
So today, this was the first day I had to get back into school traffic coming in because the past 2 weeks have been great. No kids going to school, and I got here fast. And today it was a little more stop and start than it had been.
Oh, yeah, well, there's some school districts because the snow's everywhere.
That's right.
Kids are snowed in.
Well, you know what's unfortunate, and I'm glad I grew up in the era that I did. There was no virtual learning when I was a kid. So back in my day, so
in
when
the
it was a
old
snow
days.
day, there was no learning on snow day. They're like, oh, well, just get on your laptops. We'll do school that way. That sucks.
Oh,
and I
yeah.
feel sorry for kids.
Oh,
now.
absolutely. That's the one negative. I think now it's funny, and I know because the technology has gotten so much better when it comes to predicting weather and everything.
Right.
But it still makes me laugh when the day before there's been no snow, we're shutting down school tomorrow. But there's going to be snow tomorrow, but there's been no snow.
Well, listen, you're from the Mid-Atlantic, so I'm sure it takes more to shut down schools up there. But down here, if somebody spills ice on the sidewalk, then
Shut down
school gets
school.
canceled.
No school. Why? There's ice on the sidewalk in a neighborhood 2 blocks from the school. No school.
Close enough.
I used to joke about when I lived out in Seattle because they shut down school and everything, right?
Yeah.
No school today. Why? It's too sunny. It's too sunny today. We got to close the school down. There's too much glare for the kids. Too much sunshine.
Speaking of, can I say something that
No.
if it's freezing outside, you should not water your lawn?
Was somebody watering their lawn?
It happens all the time. They water the lawn, and then the water is in the road, and there's a huge patch of ice
do
and
we-
a frozen lawn.
Do they still give out Darwin Awards?
I think they still do the Darwin Awards.
That might be an honorable mention.
You know what, Dave? That is a good point. If it's like 27 degrees, might not be a good idea to be running the water that's going to go down off the lawn onto the road because then the road freezes.
Not good for your lawn.
Not a good
either, I
idea.
suspect.
There are people, though, who are so wackadoodle on a lawn, Jay Phillips, that they would I bet you Jay waters his lawn when it's 27 degrees.
Jay has a nice lawn.
He does. Hey, the Phillips, the Phillips Ponderosa is no joke. It's a nice little hang. Nice little hang.
Because his wife makes all the money.
Oh, absolutely. Well, she makes all the decisions, too. She tells him what to do every day. Jay, here's your list. Thank
Y'all
you,
been
dear.
there?
What?
Y'all been to Jay's house?
I mean, I was part of the lawn crew. I mean, he doesn't invite me to the house. I was part of the landscaping crew.
Yeah, he put us to work.
Yeah, we went to work. We didn't go there and hang out. I mean, that's
I've
Jay
known
Phillips.
Jay for 18 years. He's never invited me.
He really doesn't like you much. No, I'm kidding, Dave. It's a joke.
He's allergic to honey buns, Dave.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Now you know.
All right. So, in case you were sleeping and just woke up, it's Black Friday in the NFL.
Black Monday.
Like, did I say Black Friday? Yeah, they're shopping. They're shopping.
Well, teams are shopping for
They are for new head coaches. It was Black Monday in the NFL. And it started last night or yesterday afternoon. The New England Patriots screwed up and won. Beat the Buffalo Bills. The Bills were sitting down half their
Hey, 'cause
team.
the Bills were playing the Buffalo middle school team.
Yes, I mean, the Bills Mafia played in that
Yeah.
game. They're jumping on tables and all this stuff on the field. So New England decides they want to win the game and screw up the first pick in the draft. And I think the Patriot ownership was so mad that they fired Gerard Mayo, the head coach. And we're going to get to this in a second, but here's Mayo after the game addressing the critics of saying, hey, Gerard, why did you win this game? You screwed up the first pick overall in the draft.
Look, anytime we step foot, and I've said this over the past couple of weeks, as a player, as a coach, we always want to go out there and win.
Yeah, look, this misnomer on tanking makes me laugh. Everybody thinks that before a game, the GM and the coach or the manager and the owner and everybody, they get into the locker room / clubhouse, shut the door and go, remember, guys, we're here to suck and lose.
Yep.
Don't try to win. And at the end of the game, we're going to give a game ball to Jimmy. Why? He dropped 3 passes. Good job, Jimmy. No. Tanking is putting together the worst possible team,
That's right.
and they're going to go try really hard, but they're so bad they're going to lose despite their efforts.
Because you have to think about it, especially on a team that you think's got a coach on the hot seat or whatever, a team that's really bad. All those guys are playing for their jobs.
Yes.
And it's not in their nature to say, all right, I'm going to go out there. As a quarterback, I'm going to go throw a couple of interceptions. We're going to fumble. I'm going to sack myself a couple times. Like, no, Mitch Trubisky is going to go out there as his Buffalo quarterback and try his hardest when he's playing for Buffalo, as does any quarterback that goes out there and plays, Will Levis, whoever it may be, across the NFL. So, yes, it's about putting the worst combination of guys on the field to ensure that you lose. That's the mastermind behind taking, which is what the Patriots didn't do yesterday.
Right. I mean, it's the idea of our guys are going to try hard to win.
Now, I will say, Joe Milton is a wild card.
Oh,
so
sure he
maybe
is.
putting him out there, it's like, well, he's going to throw the ball 80 yards over everybody's head.
Yeah,
and
either
he
he-
actually didn't.
Right. Either Joe Milton's going to look great or Joe Milton's going to be a disaster. That's
Yes.
Joe Milton, and Joe Milton was the good Joe Milton yesterday.
Yes.
And New England won the game, and now everybody's falling in love with the physical abilities of Joe Milton.
Here we go again.
And you know what's
It
going to
starts
happen.
over.
We all know what's going to happen.
Somebody's going to give him a boatload of money to come be their starter, and 3 games in, why we pay this guy?
Yeah, whose idea was this? So New England wins the game, and they fall out of the first pick overall, which is now belonging to the Tennessee Titans. By the way.
Correct. Who Levis their way to the number 1
Yes,
pick.
they sure did. Now, Mayo after the game, you know, they win the game. He does his post-game pressers. He leaves. He feels pretty good because, hey, you know, we won a football game. That was nice. It's been a tough year, and it was good to finish the year on a W going into next year.
Right.
Well, guess who's not getting it next year?
Gerard Mayo.
Gerard Mayo. And look, it was 1 year in, but here's my thing. Okay, Mayo was the hand-picked successor to Bill Belichick.
Yes.
He was the coach in waiting in a lot of people's minds in New England from the Kraft family.
Yes.
This was the guy, hand-picked by everyone. This is the dude. Lasted 1 year.
Yeah.
That's a reflection on upper management and ownership. That was a bad move by them.
Look, I don't think it's fair to only give a guy 1 year, especially one that never had prior head coaching experience before.
And you know how bad that roster is?
Yeah, it's bad.
That's a terrible roster. Yeah, you've got a future franchise quarterback you hope in Drake May. But besides that, tell me the exciting skill position pieces the Patriots have right now moving forward you think could be real difference makers.
No.
It's one of the worst rosters in the league. So you hand a first-year head coach who's been a head coach at no other level, by the way.
Yeah.
You give him one of the worst rosters in the league, a rookie franchise quarterback that you hope will be a franchise quarterback. And all the coaches also are just starting out. Not all, but a lot of them are just starting out.
Yeah.
You give them 1 year?
Can't believe that didn't work.
Yeah, wow. That's a reflection on bad ownership.
By the way, so for the past roughly 25 years, the Patriots have been a mainstay with consistency. Bill Belichick at the helm, Super Bowls, playoffs, all that kind of stuff. They're going to go into their 3rd year with a 3rd different head coach.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Because the Kraft family couldn't wait to get control back. Couldn't wait, man. They were dying to get control of this football team again because they got tired of dealing with Belichick. Well, how are they doing so far?
Not great.
But the other thing I think, there's one other thing in my head because I always want to look for the angle. There's a guy out there available, played for the Patriots, has been successful at some level as a head coach, is looked at as a guy who just loves ball. And could this be the idea that he's going to get a gig, someone's going to hire him, and in the Patriots' mind, do they have the inside track on Mike Vrabel?
If they were going to do it, why didn't they just do it last year?
That's my question, because my thing last year was he was there and available for you, but you were so in on Gerard Mayo. Now, you've seen a year of Mayo. A year we all saw coming, by the way. Nobody thought New England was going to compete for a playoff spot. We knew
Sure.
they were going to be a losing team. You know how this goes. You could talk yourself in or out of anything, right, Bob?
Of course.
They talked themselves into Mayo being Mr. Wonderful, and then the season's going along, and he's learning as a head coach. He's going to make mistakes. He's going to screw stuff up. And then you get to that point of, Vrabel's out there. Vrabel's won. Vrabel's been in the playoffs. Vrabel's an expatriate. Vrabel knows the Belichick way. I thought you got sick of the Belichick way, but still, no, never mind that.
Not that way.
Yeah,
This
the
way.
other way. that might be the other angle. They now they've got this love of Vrabel.
It makes the most sense in their eyes.
Right. We'll continue talking about Black Monday through the NFL, but that's what has been happening since you were asleep. A lot of stuff going on in the league we'll get to between now and 3 o'clock. Firehouse Sub text the hour next, 803-404-6100 halftime show. Terry Ford, Tyler Head, David there. Austin's here too. We're running until 3 on the game. Oh, time to get our Firehouse sub text of the hour here on the halftime show. Terry Ford, Tyler Red, David Dare, Austin. We got all the crew is here. Hey, Dave, remind Austin next time he comes in to Shadow. Donuts, Krispy
Donuts, honey buns.
Honey buns, donuts.
Diet Dr. Pepper. That's your go-to drink, right, Dave?
Yeah, I'll
yeah.
take that.
Are you a Diet Dr. Pepper guy, Dave?
Little DDP.
Right now, I'm on diet. What do you call it? Mountain Dew.
No, that's when you need to wake up.
Diet Mountain Dew.
Yeah.
See, back in the older days, Tyler, before energy drinks,
Oh, yeah, Mountain Dew.
Mountain Dew was the go-to when you were in college.
Sure.
Because I didn't do coffee back. I know you'd be stunned by this. I didn't drink coffee when I was young.
I can't believe you didn't drink it out of the womb.
Some kids got breast milk. I got coffee. But anyway, it's another story. But I would drink Mountain Dew because when you had to stay up.
Yeah. Oh,
we do the Mountain Dew back in the day, man.
That's about 90 mils of caffeine. It'll wake you up.
That stuff was a kicker.
My hours change. I have to do something, you know.
But your hours have changed where you can get more sleep, Dave.
Ready? I was going to say, Dave went from 9 to noon to 3. So now you need Diet Mountain Dew because you get to sleep later?
My neighbor upstairs still gets up at 5:45 every morning.
So
I can't believe you can make
earplugs.
that much noise taking a shower and putting your clothes on.
You want some earplugs? Earmuffs?
Yeah,
Something like that?
you need some earmuffs. Those earplugs.
We'll get you some noise-canceling headphones.
Or, you know what we can do? You get that music on we'll get you one of those little clock radios with the beach sounds.
Yeah, the whale noises, stuff like that.
All sorts of weird noises like that. Put you to sleep. It's soothing and calming.
Does Apple make that?
I forgot he's part of the cult. I forgot.
Well, I'm sure you can get it on just about anything, Dave. If you have Spotify, you can do it on Spotify.
Have you talked to this person about their loud showers?
No, he's like 26 and he's
are you right?
Works out all the time.
Are you right under their bathroom?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's not good.
Yeah.
I'm one of the geniuses who laid the floor plan out for that. That's a good idea. I remember we rented a condo years ago where you could, and upstairs from us, a nice guy, but we knew his bathroom patterns.
Oh,
You'd hear him. And by the way, he was an older fella. There were a lot of bathroom trips. Yes. Got to hear all of them.
Well, that's the third one this hour.
Well, Mickey! Hey, Mickey! But anyway. All right, Firehouse Sub Text, CR 803-404-6100. What you got, man?
David said, so you're saying Notre Dame is still unlikable even after Brian Kelly left?
That's good. That's my thing with Notre Dame. I get the people who like them, who jumped on the bandwagon somewhere where they saw them on NBC.
Sure.
Or whatever. I get it. I understand. They're a national brand, and there's a bandwagon aspect to Notre Dame. But that's a good point that David brings up. When have they been super likable outside of the bandwagon jumper or someone who went to Notre Dame, like Hannah Storm, who reminds you every time they win any game?
Sure. Well, the moments of niceness that you see around them, like, hey, this Manti Te'o guy, his girlfriend and his grandmother died on the same day. That's a cool story. Oh, that was fake.
No,
sorry. So it just seems like it's all fake to some degree. And I never really even thought about because my dad hates Notre Dame, so I've always grown up kind of with that thought in the back of my mind. And I was listening to the Split Zone Duo podcast the other week, and they said, most people's hate comes from when they got their TV contract. They're on TV every week, and your team was on TV like once a year. So why do they get special treatment? Because they're a big brand. They make a lot of money off of it. And I never really thought about that being the reason why so many people hate them, and it makes sense.
I mean, they look like here's the way a lot of us think is we always, I don't know, jealousy, envy, or we just don't think it's fair. Certain people, certain businesses, certain programs in college football or basketball or certain franchises in professional sports, they get every advantage possible.
Sure.
And so we don't like when someone gets all the advantages. Sort of like that rich kid who gets everything.
Oh, of course.
It's in your school.
Yeah.
And you kind of sit back and go, you've gotten every advantage in the world. I kind of want to see you suck.
Yeah, of course.
I think that's part of what the point is.
You root for their downfall.
With Notre Dame. They've gotten every advantage through most of our lifetimes, right?
Yeah.
All of us.
Yeah.
So there's a part of us that likes to see them fail because they've been set up for so much success. And there's a party that says, why do you deserve that?
Yeah.
Because what have you really done consistently over the last God knows how many years?
Talked about the other day. That was the first time they won a major bowl game since the mid-'90s when Lou Holtz was there.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, look, were they successful under Brian Kelly? Sure. But really, besides Kelly's run, there's been a lot of underachieving and underwhelming. Look, I'll give Freeman credit. I didn't see this coming this year to do what they've done.
I didn't either.
I don't know if this is the start of something in South Bend, but I think the texture hit it.
Yeah, absolutely.
They just in so many ways are unlikable to so many people. All right. Football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors, coming up next on the halftime show here on the Game. Halftime show. Terry Ford, Tyler Head, David Adair, Austin Leave. You finally run him out, Dave? Finally run Austin out? He had enough of you? So we are hanging out here till 3 o'clock. Of course, the 1 o'clock hour, like always, football, and more football. Sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. South Carolina, some transfer portal dirt. Utah State transfer running back Rashul Falson visiting South Carolina tomorrow, according to Pete Nakos on On3. Now, Faison, I said Falson, Faison. I don't know what's wrong with me today. Rasul, it's regular work week now. I got to get out of holiday mode. Rasul Faison, 1,000-yard rusher last year, has been a solid running back at Utah State. Now, it'd be a good get for South Carolina if you get Faison.
Yeah.
Again, he's not Rocket Sanders, but he's a guy that's been productive, and he could go into your mix with an Attaway and a Howell and things of that nature. But, Tyler, he's also had trips to Bama, Florida State, and Utah. So, I mean, you're going to be in the running with other schools to snag Faison.
Yeah, that's what I kind of see here. He's he's visiting with a lot of other high-end schools. So you're going to be in a fight there. And, as we get further and further into this transfer portal stuff, these high-level guys are going to start going. Again, they seem to really go hard after Justice Haynes. At the end of December, he obviously ended up, transferring to Michigan. And much like we talked about 2 seasons ago, we thought for sure that they were going to land somebody high-level out of the portal. Didn't end up happening. You could run into that situation again. And, again, Carolina's addressed a lot of needs in the portal already, but running back's definitely one that they've not quite gotten to just yet.
The commitments now, one we haven't really talked about because it's happened in the last so many days, and we've been all so holidayed. And what we've been doing, Sean Murphy, Florida State, the linebacker.
Yep.
Top 60, if I remember, top 70 recruit coming out of high school. Started off at Bama, really didn't play. At Florida State, he was hurt last year. I think played in the last game, had like 5 tackles in his last game. He was actually healthy and played.
Yep.
A lot of upside, a lot of potential here. It's just you got to be able to lock him in, keep him healthy, and hopefully all that potential pops.
It reminds me a lot of bringing in Goodwine from a year ago, coincidentally enough, from Alabama as well, where, again, highly touted guy coming out of high school for the most part, was just on a very talented roster that didn't get a chance to see the field. And Goodwine was a rotational guy this year on the defensive line, going to get an opportunity to be one of those key guys coming up next year. But you hope that potential that Nick Saban saw, coming out of high school or whatever it may be, is going to, show up here at Carolina with more playing time. And same thing for Sean Murphy, linebacker, an area that, again, you're losing 2 of your more key guys on defense, and Debo Williams, Demetrius Knight. We'll see if the Bam Martin Scott thing happens with trying to get an extra year because of the JUCO thing or not. I wouldn't say hold your breath on it because you never know with those kind of things. But if you get him back, that'd be great. But if not, potentially you're looking at Sean Murphy and J.R. Johnson as your 2 linebackers in the middle of the defense next year.
Yep, and the hope is, again, with a guy like Murphy, you can unlock it. It's a lot of ability there if you can get it. The other one we didn't really talk about, Aaron Nolan, Ohio State, transferring to South Carolina, the quarterback.
That was like Christmas Eve or something like that?
And we were checked out.
Yeah.
Let's just be honest. We were checked out. First of all, I love his name.
Oh, it's a phenomenal quarterback.
It is.
Him, like Jackson Dart, Aaron Nolan, those are quintessential quarterback names.
Yes. Those are great quarterback names. Phenomenal. Again, anybody with the name Booty is also a good name for anything.
General Booty, John David Booty.
General Booty was phenomenal. But Aaron Nolan is a perfect name. A 4-star kid, was a high-level recruit, the 5th quarterback in the class of 2024. He knows you can come to South Carolina, back up Lenora Sellers in 2025, and if Sellers develops and grows the way we all expect him to, there's a really good chance he will develop and grow his way to the NFL draft. Yeah. And then you hopefully will have Aaron Nolan in place to be the next man up, if that's the way it goes.
Quarterback in the transfer portal is all about maneuvering when it comes to where you see yourself in the next handful of years.
Absolutely.
And yes, it does seem like Aaron Nolan's kind of playing the long game here, saying, okay, I know I'm going to be behind Lenore Sellers, but if he balls out, like you said, he should be going off the NFL, and boom, I'm in line to be your starter in 2026, where he, at that point in time, will have been 3 years removed from high school. And if he balls out in 2026, assuming he stays at Carolina, he could go to the NFL as well. So you got to think a lot further down the road by his way. His real name is Prentice. I just looked that up.
Fun.
Air is his nickname. I'm assuming in reference to Air Jordan. Maybe played basketball growing up or something along those lines. But yes, he's thinking further ahead now. How does that affect things with Cutter Woods and Dante Reno? That becomes the next question. You don't really know. You've got quarterbacks, on the horizon in the pipeline for your 26 and 27 classes and all that as well. So it gets a little bit funny when you talk about quarterbacks, but we know for now that Laura Sellers is a guy for 2025, and what happens past that is things to deal with down the road.
Well, that's the way it is now.
Yeah.
I mean, especially with quarterback, because last time I checked, you only play one.
Yes.
So you bring in a guy.
And if you have two, you don't have one.
No, you don't, which is also quite interesting. So you bring in a guy, and you bring in another guy. Then next year you bring in another guy, and then you go to a transfer portal, you bring in a guy, and you hope you have your guy. Then when your guy moves on, now you got another guy to choose from, but these other guys might go transfer, and then you got to bring in another guy.
The rule of thumb, whether it be through high school or through the portal, you got to bring in a quarterback almost every year. It seems
one
like.
a year, man.
'Cause you just never you almost assume you're going to lose two of those guys within a 1 to 2 year window, more often than not.
And this is what you got. This is the new skill of being a head coach today, or being a coordinator, position coach, whatever. A coaching staff has to look at it, and we'll stay with quarterback real quick. Let's say Lenora Sellers has a phenomenal year.
Yep.
Goes off to the NFL draft. Congratulations, God love you. You got Aaron Nolan, you got Dante Reno, and you got Cutter, right? So you got these three guys. Roll the ball out. Go get them. That's just what you have to do now.
Sure.
And then you have to do this. You have to also evaluate this year those guys in practice.
Well, that's the thing. The depth chart in 2025 is going to tell you pretty much everything you need to know for 2026. And I'm going to guess whoever's third on that depth chart is probably going to say, I may try my hand somewhere else.
I'll give you another one. Let's just say you watch these guys all through 2025 in practice. And you're like, ooh, I don't know. Then do you have to go hit the portal? Then what do you do? That's the balance of all this now.
It is. Yep.
Is you just can't automatically go, well, we brought this 4-star kid in. He sat for a year or two. Now we're going to play him. There's no guarantee of development now, and you've always got to balance, is that guy truly ready, or do we have to go in the portal and fortify this position? Again, South Carolina learned their lesson from 2 years ago, where you tried to get a running back and you couldn't, and look what happened to you. Your offensive line got ravaged by injury, and the depth was a huge thing. And look at this year.
Yep.
They already got 2 offensive linemen with Rodney Newsom and what's his name, Nick Sharp. These are interior guys who will probably play guard. And you're still looking for a center. Or I think was it Newsom or Sharp that has played some guard in the past? Center in the past.
I want to say it's Sharp. Don't quote me on that, but one of those guys has bounced around a little bit.
So then you sit and look, okay, let's say you get James. Now you've got 3 offensive linemen who are veterans, who have experience, who have had some success. So now even though you have all these young'uns in your offensive line room, then you got some 4-star kids. Obviously Thompson's a 5-star that's going to start. There's no thinking like this, Tyler. Well, we've got these 4 stars we recruited. They've been sitting around for a year, maybe 2. Now it's time for them to graduate and start.
Yeah.
No, you can't depend on that. You don't know if they're ready. You don't know if they're truly set. And the best way to find out is you bring in some veterans.
Yeah.
Who, if your guys aren't ready, they're going to be the starters.
And that's been one of the biggest shifts in college football with the transfer portal process is there's so many coaches over the years that truly valued seniority over everything else. Like, man, that guy's been our system for 3 years, 4 years. It's time for him to start. Even though maybe this freshman might be a little bit better, but we're going to value that experience of being on campus for 3 or 4 years over whatever that freshman can bring to the table. That's out the window now. You are truly saying, okay, who are the best guys either on my team or that I can go get in the portal that can start from immediately, because it is a 1-year mission each and every year, because you have no clue what your rosters are going to look like the season after that.
No, you don't. You just don't. And now there's truly an evaluation by a coaching staff, not just of how that player is developing, but is that player developing on the right course to where we can play him next year? And if not, we got to hit the portal, because we need safety nets in case these young guys aren't ready.
Exactly.
And I think, C.J. James is in today, the offensive lineman from Texas San Antonio. Obviously, we just talked about the running back Faison from Utah State coming in tomorrow. And you just have to keep going. And that's just what you do, because you have to. You need another linebacker probably. You're looking at another offensive lineman. You want to get a running back. In a perfect world, it'd be nice to get a wide receiver. You still have work to do, and this portal thing goes on and on and on, whatever.
And as enjoyable as this past season was, that's kind of the thought that's always been in the back of my head is, man, look at all you're going to lose in this offseason. Yeah, you've got guys coming in as true freshmen that you think could potentially contribute at some of these spots, but you knew this was going to be a daunting task in the offseason to really hit the portal hard at a ton of key areas. It's not like, the past couple of years, like, okay, well, let's just go get a couple of offensive linemen, add a wide receiver or two, and then we can just see what else is out there to add to these other rooms. Like, no, you have serious need at running back, serious need at defensive line, linebacker, probably need another wide receiver. Like, there's a lot of areas you really need to hit this offseason.
Now, the good news is you got your quarterback.
You do. That's the good news. That's over and done with. No problem
That's
there.
the good news there. You're not chasing a quarterback in the portal or hoping one of your young quarterbacks is going to pop. You got your dude.
Right.
That's the good news. The bad news is you had the second most seniors in the country. And you've lost your 3 top interior defensive linemen, your 2 top linebackers, if not your 3 top linebackers. You lost a corner. You lost a safety. You've lost your interior of your offensive line. And your starting running back. That's it.
Yep.
That's all.
That's all.
That's all.
That's all.
That's all. Don't worry about it.
Just
It's all good.
half the team.
That's all. It's all good. That's it. Something really good happened over the weekend to a really good dude. Buffalo wins the Bahamas Bowl. They take out Liberty. Liberty didn't have their starting quarterback. He pieced out in the portal. And Buffalo they were just better and smacked Liberty. Easy win for the Fighting Pete Limbos, 26-7. Buffalo won 9 games this year.
Believe that's the most wins for a head coach, and you were number 1 at Buffalo in program history.
Phenomenal job by Pete Limbo. And let's enjoy a moment of Pete Limbo celebrating the Bahamas Bowl. Cut 10, David Ayer.
They've been a special group since day one. They're everything that's still good about college football. They're doing it for the right reasons. They love the game. They love each other. They've embraced the new staff. They love the university that they play for. Great, unbelievable turnout from our fans and donors here today and parents. Thank you so much for making this long trip down here to the Bahamas. It felt like a home game for us. It was great. Thank you much.
Well, first of all, if I'm in Buffalo, New York,
Oh, 1,000%.
please.
By the way, can you believe I found a clip of him talking for only 30 seconds?
No way.
No way. Right? I didn't think it was possible.
You know what else Pete Limbo did? He got $15,000 as a bonus
For winning 8 games.
for winning 8 games. And he took that $15,000 and gave it out to the staff and the grad assistants and everybody else because, again, he gave the money out to the people who need to make the dough, who work so hard, who don't get a whole lot.
Sure.
That's what Pete Limbo's about. And we loved him here. He was just great to talk to on the air, better to talk to off the air, a legitimate good man.
Yes.
And you're really happy to see who you believe are good people go out and have success when they leave an area. He's just a good guy. And I'm really happy for him and giving his money. And look, it's $15,000. It's not like $1 million. I get
Sure.
it. But still, he took that bonus. He could have pocketed it easy.
Yeah.
But he said, you know what?
And
I'm going to give it to the people who have really helped me get where we are this year.
He's not a millionaire a year coach either. Like, he's in the 6 figures, good money, but $15,000 goes probably a lot farther for him than it does a guy like Shane Beamer. But,
Sure.
Like I said, just a good guy, a leader. And this isn't his first gig as a head coach, been at Elon, a place before this, and Ball State, places like that. But he's really got that program in a good place. And again, just a good guy that you like to see have success.
Very happy for Pete Limbo this year. Really happy for him. All right. Football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. Guess what? Some big time quarterback recruits who have hit the portal, they're hitting the portal again. Portal mania. We'll get into it next on the halftime show here on The Game. Football in the 1 o'clock hour on the halftime show, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. Terry Ford, Tyler Head, David Ayers here. Austin finally had enough of Dave and took off. So he'll be back tomorrow. Dave came in during the break. Why don't we just let him run the board tomorrow and let's him punch some buttons and see what, whatever.
Listen, sometimes getting baptized by fire is the best way to do it.
Absolutely. And look, if he does, we'll just joke about it and laugh and make fun of him.
There you go. That's what
We're
we do.
fine.
That's what we
That's
do.
what we do. It's all good. All right, we talk about the transfer portal. This is pretty interesting as we get into transfer portal mania. A couple of former highly recruited quarterbacks are on the move again. We'll start with your school, Georgia.
Yep.
Guess who's in the portal? Go ahead.
With the lawsuit still pending.
Jaden Rashada, baby.
So let's chart Jaden Rashada's college career so far.
Mm-hmm.
Heavy commit to Miami at the end of 2022.
Mm-hmm.
Flips to Florida. Goes to Florida. Shows up. They don't have the money that he's promised. Transfers out. Goes to Arizona State. Starts a few games. Not really all that great. Gets beat out by Sam Levitt in the spring. Last year, transfers to Georgia. In the process of transferring to Georgia, decides to sue Billy Napier in the University of Florida. Now he's back in the transfer portal again after not playing this year.
And here's my thought. There's two thoughts to this. A, he probably went to Georgia thinking Carson Beck's going to be around for a year,
Yes.
and then I'm going to step in and take over, baby.
Yes.
And maybe he's seeing the writing on the wall. It's not going to be that easy because of Gunnar Stockton.
Well, also, from what I've heard, he was also behind Ryan Puglisi as well. So he's really quarterback 4 this year.
So think about this for a minute. He goes to he verbals to Miami, flips to Florida, doesn't get his money, he's out. Goes to Arizona State, plays a little bit, but isn't handed the job, right?
Gets beat up by a true freshman in
Gets
Sam
beat out
Levitt.
by Sam Levitt. So then he's like, okay, I'm out of here. I want to go find playing time. I'll go to Georgia, wait a year, and take that gig. Well, that's not going to happen. So now he's going to take his ball and go somewhere else.
Yes.
Eventually, he will find a starting job somewhere.
At this point, I'm probably thinking to go G5,
Yeah,
right?
he's going to go Group of 5 to get his gig.
And you know what? If you ball out at Memphis or something like that, you'll have Power 4 schools that are looking at you. But
And you can bounce back.
exactly, I don't think you're as hot a commodity right now as you were a year ago.
No, not at all. So my guess is he'll go to a Group of 5 school, and if he does kick it, then Power 4 schools will come calling, and of course he'll go. He's a mercenary.
Sure.
He's a flat-out mercenary at this point. That's all he cares about is starting, and then he'll be a mercenary to go back to the Power 4 to get his NIL dough.
Yes.
And the reason we know this is because he's kind of following the path of another guy, a former 5-star quarterback named Malachi Nelson. Malachi Nelson, one of the highest-rated quarterback prospects coming out of high school, lands in the quarterback factory of Lincoln Riley. Waits his turn for Caleb Williams to leave, then is stunned to find out he's not going to get handed the starting job.
Yep.
So he leaves Southern Cal. You know where I'll go? I'll go to Boise State. I absolutely am going to start at Boise State. This Maddox, whatever the hell this guy's name is, I can beat him out. I'm Malachi Nelson.
Right.
Well, guess who didn't win the job?
Malachi Nelson.
Malachi
And
Nelson.
Considering the fact that, yes, they made the playoff, but that was Coach Vastagenti, not Maddox Madsen.
No. Maddox Madsen, by the way, if you're Malachi, and this is nothing against our boy Maddox. If you're Malachi Nelson and you can't beat that guy out, what is it about you?
Yes.
Now, Malachi Nelson is, and why we're talking about what Jaden Rashada is going to do, because Malachi Nelson's doing this now. His rep is damaged.
Of course.
He couldn't start at Southern Cal under a quarterback whisperer like Lincoln Riley. Then he went to a high G5 school in Boise State. Couldn't win that gig either. Now you know where he's going?
Where?
The University of Texas of El Paso, baby.
Okay.
He should start there.
Go
Right?
Miners.
Right?
Yeah, I think.
If Malachi Nelson can't win the starting job at UTEP, maybe it's time to reassess your future. What do you want to major in, son?
I was going to say, brush up on that resume a little bit, start focusing in class a little bit more because I don't think the NFL is going to be waiting on you.
And look, again, this is the world, and it's okay because this is the world of the wild, wild west of no guardrails and no rules and regulations at all. And you can do this to maneuver yourself to a starting job. It's fine.
Sure.
It's fine. But what does it say about Jaden Rashada and Malachi Nelson? If I asked you, you've never met either one of them in your life, and you're watching this, what do you say about them? Just from your perspective.
Yeah, I'd say they're not very good.
They're not as good as they think they are, and it's everybody else's fault they're not starting, and they're going to keep transferring until they get their chance, right? So let's get back to it. It's a you problem, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it seems that way. And that is the unfortunate part about something like this is you are constantly moving around, especially for a quarterback spot. You're not getting development. You're not getting consistent development because guess what? You're going to go to a new offensive coordinator, new quarterbacks coach, and they're going to do something completely different than the last guy. So the progress of you getting better at quarterback is probably not happening at the clip it would if you stayed in one place and worked with one guy, one coach, whatever it may be, over and over again.
Now, think about this for a minute. Obviously, Lincoln Riley didn't see something in Malachi Nelson.
Right.
Whether it's lack of work ethic, lack of true study, maybe from the neck up, he can't process the game the way his physical talent maybe can. There was something where Lincoln Riley went, nah.
Yeah.
Nah, I'm good. I'm going to go with the other guy that's been here for 10 years, but thanks anyway.
And again, Lincoln Riley, very good at recognizing what good quarterback play is.
And then you roll into Boise, and you can't beat out a guy you should be able to beat out. If we look at physical talent, Malachi Nelson's physical talent, and our boy Maddox, I like to mess up his name for fun. Who's got more physical ability? Malachi Nelson.
You would think.
5-star kid coming out of high school.
Supposedly.
Guess what? For whatever reason, he couldn't win the job. It almost makes you feel like there's an issue of processing the game from the neck up, the work ethic from the neck up. There's something that's limiting Malachi Nelson that he has to fix for himself, or this is going to continue.
And look, we obviously get caught up in star ratings way too much sometimes. Some guys can't make the transition from high school football and I always like to look at classifications.
Yes.
What level of high school ball did you play at? Because if you're balling out at AA ball in the state of Georgia, yeah, that's fine, but it's not 7A. It's not 6A. You know, if you're playing against not the best competition, your numbers may be great, your measurables may be great, but you might not translate as well to the next level of college football, and some guys struggle with that.
I'll give you the example, Brock Vandergriff.
Yeah, he played single A private high school football in Georgia, was probably the best athlete on the field. His best wide receiver was a kid, last name Johnson, I forget his first name. He was like 5'11", and they won a state championship because Brock Vandergriff put the entire team on his back. And now he's done with football.
He quit football. Think about it.
After a pretty darn rough first year as a starter.
Awful season at Kentucky. So that's the point. Sometimes a kid is just physically more gifted than everyone else around him in high school. But once he gets to college, then it's like, whoa, there are a lot of physically gifted dudes here. I need a plan B, whatever that plan B is, right?
Right.
But they don't have plan B. That could be Malachi Nelson. That could be Jaden Rashada. Or they could have people around them who aren't the best people to have around them.
Sure.
The Rashada thing has a smell to it. Maybe he's got a bad circle. No, Jaden, transfer somewhere else where your greatness will pop somewhere else. This Kirby Smart and his people, this Ken Dillingham and his people. By the way, another quarterback whisperer is Dillingham.
Yes.
So sometimes it's that circle of people around them that keep, instead of anybody having to real come to Jesus with them.
Sure.
So, but those two are on the move again.
And look, I'm sure there are plenty of schools out there that are lofting bids at them, and they'll go to whoever the highest bidder is.
Yep, so Malachi Nelson will go and try to show he's a starting quarterback at UTEP, and Jaden Rashada will move on to the next place that is going to enable his greatness.
Yes.
Because now we've gone through 4. If you count Miami.
Yeah. So he could hit 6 maybe by the end of his college career, technically speaking.
All right, football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. So, Gamecocks, NFL draft. There's 3 of them that seem like they're looking at a higher draft ceiling than others. We'll get into that coming back. Maybe some of these mocks, see where the Gamecocks are going. It's a halftime show. Terry Ford, Tyler Head, David Dare. Go until 3 here on the game. What we're talking about is football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. College football a little quiet right now. We get to the college football playoffs starting on Thursday. NFL Black Monday. We have, Gerard Mayo got fired in New England yesterday. Doug Peterson canned in Jacksonville today. The Giants ownership has said they're bringing back Brian Dable and the general manager. It's got to make Giant fans happy. After 2 awful seasons in a row, the Giants will give Dable and the front office a year 4. Joe Schoen is the GM, by the way. He's the brain trust that decided to give quarterback Daniel Jones a big contract and decided not to pursue bringing back Saquon Barkley. Now, again, 99% of the running backs in the NFL you don't give a second contract to. There are a couple, because they are special enough to where you take a look at bringing them back on a second contract. Not to say you're going to do it, but you need to really examine it. Giants just let Saquon Barkley roll. And so you're 0 for 2. But that front office is coming back. Nice job. There's head coaching vacancies. Right now in Vegas, it seems like Antonio Pierce is safe for the moment. Mike McCarthy, right now, safe in Dallas. Haven't heard anything there. I will not be surprised if Jerry Jones brings McCarthy back. Jerry likes his puppet coaches. Jerry's not going to bring a real coach in there that's going to fight back or push back on him. So I can see Jerry bringing McCarthy back. Does not surprise me. I think Brian Callahan comes back for year 2 in Tennessee. Again, not a great roster. What do you expect? And plus he was handed Will Levis. Need I say more? That's kind of where it's at right now. The Jets obviously have a head coaching opening. The Saints have a head coaching opening. And all the same assistants are being brought up to do all these interviews.
The NFL coaching carousel is so funny because every single year it's the same collection of 6 to 10 names. That's those handful of coordinators. Of course, it's going to be Ben Johnson this year, Aaron Glenn on the defensive side of the football with Detroit that are going to get interviews. And then you just have those random names get thrown in there. Rex Ryan feels confident he's going to get the Jets job
Which
now.
I think is hilarious.
You got 4 guys that are former head coaches. Of course, Dan Quinn got hired by the Commanders this past offseason. The retread hires, those kind of things. And then these past couple years, more than any other time I can remember, you just get the out of left field ones. That again, Jets with Rex Ryan when John Gruden got hired off the ESPN desk. Just weird ones that you weren't really expecting.
Yeah, we expect Mike Vrabel to get a gig, most likely New England. And again, Ben Johnson, Liam Cohen's name is in there now, the OC in Tampa, because how good the Tampa Bay offense was, even though the Tampa Bay offense was also good the year before with Dave Canales.
I was going to say, I thought that's why Dave Canales got his job.
Right, and now Liam Cohen is a genius. And there's talk of him making the rounds. So, again, Black Monday in the NFL. Very interesting. Ryan Grubb, who was the offensive coordinator for Kalen DeBoer at Washington, really, those guys were like, crazy glued at the hip.
Oh, yeah. Well, he was supposed to come with him.
Grubb was going to go to Tuscaloosa to be the OC at Bama. Then the Seattle Seahawks, with their first-year coach Mike McDonald, offered him the offensive coordinator job in Seattle. And, of course, Grubb's no dope. Of course you're going to take that gig.
Didn't have to move.
Yeah.
Just drove, took a left instead of a right.
It was perfect.
In Seattle.
And, now he's fired, which is a kind of a weird – I haven't had a chance to really dig into it. But on the surface, the Seattle offense was okay. It wasn't great. The offensive line stunk. The running game couldn't get going. They were kind of middle of the pack in most offensive metrics. Ryan Grubb got fired today. I just think it's – I don't know. Is there something in there we don't know about? Because a first-year offensive coordinator who has had a track record of success in college, you think you would give him year 2 to get it right, even if you thought it was going to be better in year 1, correct?
Yeah, I'm trying to look here, see.
It's weird.
If see what Geno Smith's stats were 1 year compared
middle
to
of the road.
Other. Let's see. I mean, yeah, his stats, he threw more interceptions this year.
Yeah.
But his stats overall are pretty comparable, so it's not like he had a big slide.
No, and look, their passing game was what it's been. I mean, you got 2 really good wide receivers, really 3 solid wide receivers if you add Lockett in there with Smith and Jigba, and of course, the that mutant of a human being, DK Metcalf.
Yep.
So it's just weird. But my thought is, okay, Ryan Grubb's available. Is Kalen DeBoer going to bring him back to Alabama? I think Kalen DeBoer should investigate that in every way, shape, or form myself.
Yeah, there's something off there. Why he'd be fired there. I'm just kind of looking. I mean, they won yesterday against the Rams backup, so don't take too much into account there. They had an ugly game against the Bears the other week on Thursday Night Football. So some lower scoring outputs throughout the entire season. Maybe it's the inconsistency.
It might be.
Because, some weeks they're scoring 10 points, some weeks they're scoring 30. And, again, maybe he didn't mesh well with Geno Smith or something along those lines. I don't know. It is weird.
It's weird, and it's like, I know the running game wasn't as good, I think, as it was last year. Is it one of those two where you sit down with him at the end of the year and you don't like the answers? Because, I mean, you're going to sit down with the offensive coordinator and go, okay, here's where we were at the end of the year.
Sure.
What's your plan moving forward in year 2 to improving what we need to improve? And you don't like the answers.
Maybe.
Or you saw, whatever you saw through the year, maybe it wasn't so much about production, but you saw, I'm talking about Mike McDonald, the head coach.
Mm-hmm.
You saw some things that concerned you through his first year as the offensive coordinator. And then at the end of the year, you sit down to have the conversation about it. And he looks at you and goes, hey, dog, we're good. Well, no, we're not.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
It's very strange that he got let go.
And he is in, because McDonald's the defensive coordinator with the Ravens before getting the job. So you have a defensive-minded head coach that I'm assuming put most of the responsibility of the offense in his hands.
Yeah.
And, again, maybe he just didn't like the production they had.
Could have been. All right, South Carolina Gamecocks, regarding the NFL draft, there's 3 guys, obviously. There is Nick Emanwari, there's TJ Sanders, there's Kyle Kennard. I feel like those guys will go, I think they'll be out by the end of the second round.
Right.
That's my thought. And the interesting thing, I looked at TJ Sanders I was like, yeah, I feel like a 3rd-round pick. He's a rotational piece. He's really good at rushing the passer for an interior defensive lineman. That should get him a premium round spot. I'm starting to see late first-round love on TJ Sanders, which I think is very interesting. Gamecock Central, they have this tankathon 3-round draft, the mock draft they were looking at. Emanwari, Sanders, and Kennard are all off the board by the end of the second round.
Mm-hmm.
Sanders goes the highest of the 3, I believe.
Interesting.
Let me double check. No, let me see, or is it Emanwari? Emanwari, 39th overall. Then Sanders goes 54th overall. Then Kennard, 56th overall, which is the 24th pick of the second round. Then I go to CBS Sports. They got 5 billion mock drafts. Everybody's doing a mock draft at CBS. The guys from the Big Bang Theory are doing mock drafts.
Yeah,
I mean, it's crazy.
The basketball guys are doing mock drafts.
It's hilarious. If you look through the mock drafts, TJ Sanders in 1 is going 31st to the Lions. It's the only South Carolina Gamecock in that first round. And that's Chris Trapasso with his mock draft. Then we drop down to Mike Renner. His mock draft has, at the bottom of the first round, he has Nick Emanwari going 28th to the Vikings, and he has TJ Sanders going 30th to the Eagles. And I flip over to the last mock draft on the board here, and I do not see any Gamecocks going in Josh Edwards' mock draft, and there weren't any in Ryan Wilson. Ryan Wilson does a mock draft a day. He's an animal.
Yeah, I know.
He's an animal. Good dude. I mean, it's hilarious. ESPN Field Yates had Kyle Kennard going to Green Bay at the bottom of the first round. These 3 guys, I'm not going to say stunned because you just never know. They will, I think they're all gone by the end of the second round. By the middle of the 3rd round, they're all gone.
Yeah, I think that goes without saying. Again, the Sanders thing, I think, surprises a lot of people because his numbers weren't gaudy. And as a defensive lineman, that stuff can kind of get disguised a little bit. But like I said, good at good at rushing the passer. Obviously has the physical attributes you're looking for in a guy like that. And again, the fact that he's kind of a rotational piece and not as much wear and tear on maybe some of these other guys that you're looking at in that spot.
I think NFL scouts see in those small doses in that rotation a guy that can get after quarterbacks. And if you're an interior defensive lineman and you can get after quarterbacks, no quarterback likes heat in his face.
Nope.
And if you can be that guy from the interior, you're going to get. And again, I thought second, third round pick. No, there are people who think he'd go in the bottom of the first round, or no doubter off the board in the second round. And we'll see what happens with a Demetrius Knight, an O'Donnell Fortune, guys like that. Torricelli Simpkins, those are guys also have gotten. I think they get drafted. I think Knight goes fourth roundish. Simpkins will go probably somewhere in that neighborhood. Fortune probably, if not in that neighborhood, third day. But those guys, I think, will get their names off the board too.
Yeah, for sure.
But just not as high as the first three: Kennard, Eamon, and Sanders. All right, football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. We'll get our Firehouse Sub text the hour next at 803-404-6100. Halftime show, Terry Ford, Tyler Head, David Dare, till 3 on the game. halftime show. Terry Ford, Tyler Head, David Ayer. Football in the 1 o'clock hour. Sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. Time to get our Firehouse sub text the hour, 803-404-6100. What's trending at 2, we will get back to the men's and women's results over the weekend with the Gamecocks. For the women, thumbs up. For the men, the opposite of thumbs up. So we'll get into that, what's trending at 2. You have a Firehouse sub text the hour there, my man?
I do. AJ says, crazy idea. Maybe Nelson and Rashada should stick it out somewhere and learn the system. IDK, maybe work on their game.
Stop it with your logic. Here's my thing about all this. I'm so torn on because look, I'm fully in for being able to transfer and go and find your place. The old ways was the old thing was crap, and you got to sit out a year and you can only go a certain place, and your coach will tell you where you can go and you can't go and all that. So I like the fact you can transfer and play.
Sure,
but let's go to the life part of this. The guys that do this, like Rashada or Nelson. To the point of the texter, and you said the same thing earlier, you're not developing. You're just going and looking for a starting gig. You're not really learning the nuances of playing the position.
Mm-hmm.
Like Malachi Nelson could have stayed next year under Lincoln Riley, and maybe after an extra year of learning under a guy who, by the way, I don't know, has been to the Heisman Trophy ceremony a lot with quarterbacks.
A lot of first-round picks.
You might think he can teach you something. If I'm Malachi Nelson, I think I said this when he transferred last year, I'd have stayed another year at Southern Cal.
Mm-hmm.
And then after year 2, if I'm not getting the gig, I've been under the tutelage of Lincoln Riley for 2 years. Now I'm going to go see what I can do.
Yep.
The other part of this, too, is you never really learn how to stick it out. Because at some point in your life, I don't care where you're at, who you are, what you do, you're going to at some point have to stick something out.
Sure.
You're going to have to go through the grind, go through the crap, and dig yourself through it and come out the other side. What's the dumb thing? The journey is better than the destination, all that stuff.
Yeah.
You're going to at some point in your life have to grit your teeth, roll up your sleeves, and fight. Neither one of these guys is doing that. Neither one of them is rolling up their sleeves and fighting.
Yeah, and not getting the development on top of that.
Exactly. So I think that goes hand in hand. You're not learning, you're not developing, you're not growing because you're not staying and learning. And Rashada had a quarterback whisperer as well in Dillingham, and he didn't stay. He should have stayed another year at Arizona State and learn. And then, okay, I've got 2 years. I'm still not getting the starting gig. I still have plenty of eligibility. Now I'm going to go.
Right.
And you're not learning how to stick anything out. You're not learning how to man up, be a man. You're not learning that either. So I'm so torn on it, Tyler. I'm like, yes, I think you should have the right to transfer. And I get quarterbacks. There's only one ball and only one guy plays.
Yep.
But there's also the idea of learning and growing and developing yourself as a player and yourself as a man by learning how to stick something out a little bit.
Sure.
So, excellent text.
Yep.
All right, there was a really funny thing that happened in the NFL over the weekend. We're going to get to cut 11. Ravens played the Browns. Browns stink. Ravens were looking to win the AFC North. And they had that thing in their – they didn't play great, especially on offense, but they got that thing in their back pocket at the end. I think it was Bailey Zappi.
Yep.
Drops back and throws a perfect pass right to the Ravens defensive tackle, Michael Pierce, who weighs about 700 pounds.
335 to be exact.
Close enough. So Pierce actually catches it when they throw it to him, runs about, 3-4 yards, maybe 5, and then goes, shutting her down, baby. I'm dropping. He almost tore his ACLs, by the way.
It looked like it.
But big man, and honestly, I don't think he would have scored, but I think he could have picked up a good chunk of yards.
Got a few more.
And he just shut her down.
Yeah.
And again, the whole team went crazy.
Of course.
Everybody's going nuts, patting him on the head and slapping him around. He got a game ball. They all jumped on him in the locker room. And here's Michael Pierce's comments after the game about getting the pick and just running a few steps and saying, I'm done, man. Hit it, Dave. Cut 11.
I want to try for 6. So there's a long history of turning big guy interceptions and fumbles and all that stuff into memes. So at the risk of ruining a career play like that for myself, it's time to go home. So bus was out of gas. We're good.
Was that the first interception that you ever had?
Yes. I've recovered a couple fumbles, but first time catching an interception.
So have that be the capper on a win like this, to win the victory. Icing on the cake. What does that mean to you?
Oh, it means everything, man. This is year 9. Like I said, I had an injury this year, so just trying to find my way back, find my rhythm and all that stuff. kind of tough, but to have that happen, like God is a funny guy. So I'm grateful, and like I said, I'm glad I caught it. More importantly,
can you describe the emotions that you went through when you caught that ball?
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I don't want to curse on TV, but S word. You know what I'm saying? I say, oh my God, he really threw this football. So no, I got fairly decent hands. I'm glad I caught it, and like I said, Coach preached smart football, and like I said, I don't want to end up on a meme on Instagram, my wife and everybody laughing at me. So we did the right thing. We got down and kept it moving.
He's a pretty good athlete for his size.
He
to be
is.
fair to Michael Pierce, I love it. The bus was out of gas.
He understands. He's not going to be the butt of anybody's joke.
No, he's like, there is no meme for me. I am dropping. Got my pick. I'm dropping. I'm done. It was pretty funny. All right. That was football. The 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. What's trending at 2? Sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Traditions. That is coming up next. Check out men's and women's hoops for Carolina over the weekend. Coming up. Halftime show. Terry Ford, Tyler Head, David Ayer. What's Trending at 2, sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Traditions. Sand Hills and Lexington, 2 locations. Before we get to that, Carolina Calls with Dawn Staley Tuesday, 6 p.m.
Yep. Carolina
Calls with Lamont the normal Thursday, 6 p.m. right here on The Game in Columbia and also our affiliate in Myrtle Beach. Obviously, we're at 107.5 and they're at 100.3. So you can check out Carolina Calls. And we have hoops. The men, Wednesday against Alabama. 6:30 pregame, 7 o'clock tip. That's at CLA.
It is, which gives me a small shred of optimism.
I will say this, nothing against Mississippi State. But if you think Mississippi State put points on you, if you don't play defense and give effort against Alabama, they might score 200.
Yeah, now Alabama might give up 80, which is fine for them.
No, I don't care.
As long as they score more. But
they don't care.
Yeah, they will run up and down the court on you.
Yep. So 6:30 pregame, 7 o'clock tip. The Gamecocks and the Tide at CLA. You can hear it right here in Columbia. And again, also our affiliate in Myrtle Beach. And the women play Thursday, 4:30 pregame, 5 o'clock tip on our sister station, 98.5 WOMG, and that's against Texas A&M.
Correct.
So there we go. That's the schedule for Hoops and Carolina Calls for the week. All right, what's Trending at 2, sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Traditions. The women, it started off a little clunky.
As have most games.
Mississippi State was up 22-13 at the end of the first quarter, but after the first quarter, an avalanche was laid upon them by South Carolina. I mean, look, again, like with the men, you got to fix your slow starts. The difference is the women did fix their slow start in Starkville and just destroyed Mississippi State after that. And to be honest with you, it wasn't even as close as a score. After the first quarter, South Carolina outscored the Bulldogs 82-46.
Yep.
Let me say that again. 82-4. Here's Dawn Staley, cut 22, Dave, talking about another slow start for her women.
I mean, we just had to wait until the adrenaline of the beginning of the game. I mean, we're going to get everybody's best effort in the beginning, and sometimes the game has to settle down. I mean, sometimes there's a substitution here or there, but most times it's just a great crowd, great team. They got off to a great start, and the game settled in, and we utilized our depth and our experience in being in games like this to, play better basketball.
There was a 38-point swing in this game. Let me run that by you again. 38-point swing in this game with South Carolina and Mississippi State. Look, just the thing about the Gamecocks, and this is like, if you follow them, it's not like Tara didn't know. This team is so deep.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Chloe Kitts had a double-double. Tahina Powell got it going from 3 early in the game and finished up in double digits. Also dishing out 5 assists, had 4 boards, couple of steals. But then Tessa Johnson comes off the bench and knocks down 22 in 26 minutes. She was phenomenal from 2, from 3. I mean, Tessa Johnson was a weapon off the bench. Again, you get Malaysia Fawali come off the bench. I mean, she's struggled consistently with her shot this year, but still, she comes off the bench and she's all gas, no brakes, right?
Yep.
Nobody's bringing that kind of player off their bench in women's college basketball.
No, we've talked about it before. South Carolina's bench, which routinely outscores opponents, they didn't do it in this case, could beat most of the teams in college basketball because they're that good and they're that deep. It's just this problem that they've had pretty much this entire season where they're just very poor in the first quarter to quarter and a half. And, they shot under 40% in the first quarter on Sunday, and then we're over 55% in the remaining quarters the rest of the way. Like, it's unreal when the switch finally flips just how high level of basketball they can play. The concern comes in as you're getting to play a ton of tough opponents. You got Texas, you got LSU, Tennessee coming up these next couple of weeks, where similar to the UCLA game a few weeks back, if you get off to a slow start, you could find yourself in a hole that you can't dig yourself out of. And that is the worry about this team, that they're going to get off to more slow starts, not be able to fight their way back against some of these tougher teams.
Yeah, and when you go to the bigger picture and you get in the NCAA tournament, I mean, again, UCLA got you at Pauley Pavilion.
Yep.
Southern Cal has got a lot of artillery as well. So you've got to find a way to get yourself to ignite faster. you're a really good basketball team. You can win it all again. That's how good you are. But last year, you were special. This year, you're missing that 6'7" anchor in the middle that you can go to when things get clunky. No offense to Chloe Kitts. She's having a really nice year, but she's not 6'7". She's not Cardoza when it comes to low post, hunker down, whatever.
You can't teach size, and that's a quintessential example of that, and they have been learning how to play without that physical presence down low and winning the size battle in every single game, and it comes to a point.
Like in the box score, right? But do you get to a point during the season, do you make a change in your lineup? You know, do you put Watkins, if healthy, we'll get to that in a minute, or an Edwards in for a Fagan? You know, I mean, Bree Hall's one of your vets. Do you just keep chugging along with her in the starting lineup, but other people start taking important minutes as the game goes along for whatever reason, depending on the situation? So you have some things you can do to maybe help combat these starts, but you got to figure it out, because that can be the thing that knocks you out of the NCAA tournament.
Yeah.
And, of course, obviously be in the Final Four, because who's going to, again.
Yeah.
But, anyway, that's something you do have to address if you're South Carolina. All right, speaking of Watkins, she gets hurt going to the basket, and, the parents went on social media and said, oh, she's okay.
Yeah, they said
everybody's fine.
She's fine, and she didn't have to go to the hospital or anything like that, which is good. And look, this team's played without her for the bulk of the first half of the season because of her legal proceedings and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, but she's been playing phenomenally since she's come back, and would definitely be a piece that you're going to be missing if she's out for a while.
Yeah, and again, no offense to her parents. Her parents say she's okay. That's fine. Are they doctors?
Yeah, and when you see her getting helped off the court, no pressure on that leg, that's concerning.
Yep. And here's and again, coaches love talking about injuries. Let's go to cut 21. Dave, Dawn Staley talking about Watkins' injury status.
No, not at the moment.
Do you know if she had to go to a hospital or anything?
No. She's got a little treatment here.
There you go.
Sorry, David.
He tries.
He tries. He does. And, you know, you know what you're going to get from the response.
Absolutely.
And, again, we'll learn, because they got to play A&M later on this week, so we'll learn pretty quickly what the deal is. And, you know, could you sit her for precautionary reasons against A&M? Sure. Could she be ready to play Texas next Sunday? I don't know. But
athleticism. But right now, you know, I mean, you're shooting the ball at 47% from the floor. You're hitting about 35% of your threes, 75% from the line. Are some of those numbers as good as last year? No, but still, you're an efficient offensive team who does play really good defense. You're very deep. You might not have a 6'7" Cardoza, but you do have size. You do have perimeter skill. It's all there, Tyler. It's just these slow starts are a concern.
Yeah, and again, you're routinely one of the most talented, if not the most talented rosters in all of college basketball, and more often than not, they find a way because, again, they're just better and more talented than 95% of the teams they're going to go up against. But again, like you said, especially when you get into the NCAA tournament, you could run into somebody that just keeps you at bay long enough where you can't mount that comeback, and that's the concern for this team.
All right, the men, it did not go well Saturday.
To say the least.
That's an understatement. We're trying to be kind. 85-50, and Mississippi State just, I mean, from the get-go, this thing from the get-go was just ugly. Mississippi State at one point is up 15-2. South Carolina had scored a deuce in the first, 7.5 minutes of the game. Finally got together enough to score 18 in the first half. Problem was Mississippi State was at 43. You know, Zach Davis, God love him, he gave a ton of effort. He was at least aggressive. He was at least trying to make plays. He had, a career best 22 points, took 13 shots. You know, he got to the line 10 times. He was going to the rack with anger. If you're Lamont Paris, the one thing you took from the game is at least I got a gamer in Zach Davis.
Yeah, so I have in my notes here, the first time Carolina went to the free throw line was right at about the 8-minute mark in the first quarter. And that tells you you're not being aggressive enough, especially against a team like Mississippi State that is going to challenge you down low, but you got to drive and you got to try and make things happen. And Carolina wasn't doing that. They were allowing a lot of open looks for Mississippi State to shoot. And look, they were nailing their threes. Josh Hubbard obviously very efficient at doing that. And you found yourself in a tough situation early on in that game, and there was really no getting yourself out of it.
Yeah, this version of Mississippi State offensively is better than past versions. They can score buckets. They might not be Alabama or Auburn this year, but they can score buckets. And you combine that with defensively, they try to make your life miserable. It's ironic. They're much better offensively than they've been in the past, but they're not as good as they've been defensively. And that's the other thing. You know, they always stress defense, but they're not as good at it this year as they've been in the past. And South Carolina really struggled against Mississippi State. The physicality bothered them. The energy bothered them. They just did not match it. And, you know, we talked about in the opening riff of the show or the second riff of the show, if you're Lamont Paris, you're just worried about being out-physicaled and there was just no fight. And, Dave, let's get to cut 5 from Lamont talking about Mississippi State far and away being the more physical team. Again, cut 5, Dave.
Yeah, I would. Well, part of it, you play another game. Like, we've played 14 games now. There's a group of teams that we've played that, including, you know, I think Clemson mentioned that we were more physical and like, so I think you just do it at the end of the day. Like, I think by nature, they're a more aggressive group of individuals than our guys are. But we need to match that aggression with resistance. And today we did. We've done it before, but today we did. For whatever reason, you know, then you're playing poorly. It's harder. You have to be very mature that when you're playing poorly, especially on the offensive end, which we did. We had 4 points at the 10-minute mark or something like that, right? You're playing that poorly offensively, and then to dig deeper defensively is that takes some real maturity, and so that was one area that I think we didn't answer the bell was when we got off to such a bad offensive start that we really laced them up tighter on the defensive end and made it happen. So yeah, I just think we didn't compete that way.
And yeah, I mean, that was the problem. Colin Murray-Boyles really struggled. A worst game of the year. 2 of 9 from the floor, had 6 turnovers, had more turnovers than field goals made. Did have 10 boards. I mean, he was grinding on the glass, but 5 points. I mean, Mississippi State was coming after him with some double teams. You know, they had 6 guys, 7, 10 guys chasing him around. And, you know, Murray-Boyles typically is really good at passing out of those situations. I mean, he struggled all the way around on Saturday. Clemson had bigs, and Colin Murray-Boyles toasted those guys. But they aren't at the level of athleticism as some of the guys Mississippi State ran at Colin Murray-Boyles. Indiana ran some physical bigs at him, too, and there was a little bit of a struggle in the Hoosier game as well. So, again, just got to regroup and get it going for this week because Bama's coming to town on Wednesday.
Not getting easier.
What's trending at 2? Sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Traditions. We'll get you caught up on Black Monday in the NFL next here on The Game. Halftime show, Terry Ford, Tyler Head, David Dare. What's trending at 2, sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Traditions. Okay, so we got this $1,300. Just burn a hole in our pocket.
Yes.
Gunner wanted it to pay his tab. We were like, no, we can't do that.
Is that enough?
No, probably not. Dave wanted it for a guitar. We're like, no. Elijah just wanted to buy craft beer. We said, you got a craft beer card.
It's already taken care of.
Suck it up there, dude. So we decided, after all these other ideas we didn't like, we'll just give it away. We got $1,300. We'll give it away this Friday at 7:30 on the early game. The Lawyer Lisa Special Teams Contest. Just go to 1075thegame.com if you haven't registered already. Register. And on Friday at 7:30, we will give away the $1,300. That easy, that simple.
That's right.
So, again, go to 1075thegame.com to register to possibly win the pot from the Lawyer Lisa Special Teams Contest. All right, so Black Monday in the NFL. Doug Peterson out in Jacksonville to the shock of no one. At one point in 2023, the Jags were 8-3 and a playoff team. Since then, they've been a disaster. The defense was just a dumpster fire all year. Offensively, Trevor Lawrence regressed. Doug Peterson, a guy that when he went to, we forget what the train wreck that franchise was after 1 year of the Urban.
Oh, yeah. No, he had a lot of work to do.
But Peterson came in, first year, flips it around. Jacksonville makes the playoffs. Next year, you're sitting at 8-3, and you're thinking as a Jags fan or Shad Khan, the owner, you're going, we're good now. We got the guy. This coach won a Super Bowl. He's got us turned around. We got a young franchise quarterback who's ascending. Life is good. Since then, WTF, right?
Yep.
So Doug Peterson gets fired to the shock of no one in Jacksonville, and we'll see what direction the Jags go. Look, I don't know about Trevor Lawrence. I just don't. Physically, he's got all the gifts. He can throw it all over the place. He can run. He's got dreamy hair. I mean, I don't know what has happened. Is it all of a sudden the offensive system? Is it, you add Brian Thomas, who had a really nice year as a rookie, wide receiver. You got some other interesting pieces in the skill positions. Your offensive line has been But what has stopped Trevor Lawrence from getting any better? Or is it Trevor Lawrence that stopped Trevor Lawrence? I don't know, but you got this guy there who does have the potential to be really good. You thought you brought in the right guy to unlock him.
And it started off that way because, the Meyer year was essentially a lost year in his development that people didn't know if he was going to recover from. Did it pretty quickly, but, yeah, again, the entire team has regressed in the past year and a half, and now you're kind of starting over again. It was kind of talked about with some of these other quarterbacks. You're going to have Trevor Lawrence going into, year 5 in the NFL, 4 or 5 in the NFL, whatever it is, on his third different head coach. That's
how many coordinators?
How many coordinators? That's not what you want for continuity purposes.
Yeah. And, by the way, you paid him, remember?
Yes, and he's not going anywhere.
So Trevor Lawrence, let's say you had your doubts about Trevor Lawrence, and you wanted to move on from Trevor Lawrence. You know how much dead money you would incur on your cap right now?
A lot.
$133 million. Matter of fact, you're going to have Trevor Lawrence in 2025, 2026, and most likely 2027. You got about 3 years to get this thing figured out, because even in 2027, the dead money hits $44 million. And you're not making, you get no cap. Matter of fact, $116 million against the cap in 2025, $64.5 million against the cap in 2026, $9 million against the cap in 2027. By 2028, it's only $77,500,000 in dead money, and you would get $39.5 in cap savings. So you have 3 more years of Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, and not to mention the fact that injuries derailed him a lot of this year. So how does that add up? Does that continue to compound?
Yep.
You don't really know, but it's not looking too promising in Jacksonville.
It's a mess. And it wasn't. See, that's a weird thing. It wasn't a mess, and then it became a mess. It's just strange. New Orleans is interesting. Dennis Allen gets fired. They're in cap jail because they just keep kicking the can down the road. They just won't give up and say, let's just rebuild. Look, I don't know what you have which you don't have. You got to move on from Derek Carr at some point. Derek Carr is better than people want to give him credit for. But at this point in his age, and again, I got to look at the cap number and see if you can even do it at this point without killing yourself. Spencer Rattler gave you some moments that were interesting, but also gave you some moments to let you know that, hey, he's a guy that's got some work to do.
Yeah.
They do have some interesting weapons, but they also have a lot of dead weight in age. They've got to just give it up there, blow it up, start over. You just have to at this point. The time of going, hey, we can go 9-8 and win the division. Who cares? You know what's funny, Tyler? Being in the middle is the worst place to be in sports.
It is.
The worst place to be, because you get this thing in your head, oh, we're so close. No, when you're in the middle every year, you know what you are? You're mediocre.
Yeah, well, that's
what you are.
That's the thing. And look, Tampa won the NFC South once again this year, but I don't think anybody has high expectations. They're about to go on some deep playoff run. So congratulations, you've won the division. The same thing if the Falcons would have won it yesterday instead. That you're just kind of in this mid-tier division that probably doesn't have too much promise once you make the playoffs. So if you're just fighting for a playoff spot, just say you got there, then okay. But if you're actually trying to go deep into this thing for the Saints' purposes, yes, you're going to need to blow it up and start over at some point.
So the Jets obviously are looking to replace their GM and their head coach. I think they're going to replace them with Woody Johnson's two sons because they play Madden.
Yeah.
Woody Johnson was talking, which he never should do. And he's talking about, the new head coach will pick the quarterback. And here's the thing. There's no GM in place to hire the head coach. So do you know who's hiring the head coach?
Him.
You know who's hiring the GM?
Him.
Does anybody have any confidence in, and I'm going to be nice here, that guy?
Well, he does.
Yeah, that's the problem. Who can fire him, the owner?
Nobody.
That's the problem. He said, oh, my kids don't have, look, and he said the reason he brings his kids to work is that it's a tradition in my family. My great-grandfather took his grandfather to work when he was a teenager teaching the business. This isn't selling baby powder, bub.
Right.
You don't take your kids into an NFL locker room. Come on, man. I tell you, if I was an intense, testosterone-filled NFL player, carting about 240 pounds, and some little teenage punk came into the locker room and said one thing, I'm stuffing his bleep into a garbage can. Fire me, cut me, I don't care. I'm not getting disrespected by this little pimple-faced goober.
Yeah, the fact that you feel the need to acknowledge, and again, there's some article that was wrote about it.
Yeah, in The Athletic. Yeah,
your teenage sons don't have an influence tells me they might actually have an influence.
When you have to go out of your way to say it, the Jets are a wreck. This is a wreck, and the fact that the guy that's made it a wreck is now going to hire more people to make it a wreck.
And that's how you end up being perennial losers, like the Jets have been for a long time now.
But
hey, you can hire the coach that took you to an back-to-back AFC championship games 12 years ago.
That's the guy you bring back.
Yeah.
Rex Ryan's a great idea.
Well, Rex Ryan knows he's got the job.
Yeah, we just asked Rex Ryan.
Yeah, just asked Rex Ryan.
And, of course, the Bears' job is open. We've talked about that on and off. Yeah, you want to bring in someone who is going to unleash the greatness of Caleb Williams. I get it. But what you really need to bring in is a culture builder and a leader.
Uh-huh.
This franchise has not had a culture builder and a leader since some dude named Ditka. You need a culture builder. Hey, why don't you bring back... Well, you can. He passed away. A shame, because you bring back Rex Ryan, bring back Mike Ditka.
Yeah, that's true.
Just can't.
That's true.
Unfortunately. So you have to go get a culture builder and a winner. And if that guy's an offensive genius, great. If not, he's got to hire the offensive genius, right?
Yep.
Because Caleb Williams suffered this year. And it wasn't just the offensive line. Keenan Allen dropped way too many passes. Yes, the offensive line has to get better, sure. Caleb Williams has to get better. I was stunned just how many bad throws he made this year. So there's your Black Monday so far in the NFL, and the Patriots can Gerard Mayo as well. We talked about that earlier. Firehouse Subtext, the hour is coming up later, but you know what today is? 6th of January. It's the greatest day in the history of the world. That's next here on the Halftime Show on The Game. All right, time to hit the greatest day in the history of the world, which today is January 6th. Got a couple of good old school ones for you here, Tyler, because we live on the old school one to start.
That's right.
This day in 1951, the longest game in NBA history happened. 6 overtimes to get to a 75-73 score. In today's NBA, 6 overtimes would be 342 to 340.
At least. What was the score at the end of regulation?
I don't know.
Wait.
But I do know it was 75-73.
Let's see.
The Indianapolis Olympians beat the Rochester Royals. 75-73, 6 overtimes.
I'm assuming they were still doing the 5 minutes.
Yeah, it's 1951.
Let's see.
Neither one of us were alive.
See if I can figure this out.
While you are, I'll give you, you're probably saying, I've heard Rochester Royals. Who the heck are the Indianapolis Olympians? They're one of the founding NBA teams. They started in 1949, folded in 1953. So they were only around for a few years in the NBA, 4 years tops. First year, they finished first in the West, and after that, fourth, third, fourth, and done. It is interesting. A couple of key players on the team, a guy named Alex Groza and a guy named Ralph Beard, were both Kentucky alums.
Uh-huh.
In 1951, they were suspended for life by the NBA because they admitted to a point-shaving scandal at Kentucky. Kentucky was shut down for a year. It was like one of the original death penalties over this scandal. And these two guys got kicked out of the NBA for life in 1951 over it. You know, just like the whole shoeless Joe Jackson thing.
Yeah.
So that's the Indianapolis Olympians.
So it looks like it was 5-minute overtime periods because they played a total of 78 minutes. I'm not seeing a final score
Yeah, they must. Yeah.
at the end of regulation.
Wow.
It wasn't high. Tell you that
Sure, I
much.
said not a lot of buckets in that game.
No.
You go 6 overtimes to score 75 and 73 points. Oh,
See, all they needed was a 3-point line. They could have
no 3-point.
solved this a whole lot easier.
Absolutely, they should have made the way that game, the way it was going there. Any bucket should have been a 3-pointer.
Oh, sure.
Whew. One other old school, 1976 on this day. A communication executive buys the Atlanta Braves for reportedly $10 to $12 million, a dude named Ted Turner, on this day in 1976. Of course, he was known as a yachtsman as
He
well.
was.
Mm-hmm.
He was a very hands-on owner
For a
in
bit.
a lot of ways.
Yeah, remember he managed the team for a game.
Managed the team, did his own promotions. I mean, he sat
He was the GM.
front row every single game.
Mm-hmm.
You could not accuse Ted Turner of being an absentee owner by any means.
And then he finally got smart and handed the team over to real executives and managers so they could run the team. Braves got really good. And then Ted was known for falling asleep in the box seats with Jane Fonda.
Yeah,
Which was fine.
You know,
Fine.
that's fine.
Perfect. Ted Turner, in 1996, sold the Braves. You want to hear the number?
Oh.
He sold his company to Time Warner.
Yep.
You want to hear the number?
Sure.
Now, remember, bought the Braves for $10 to $12 million, right, or whatever it was?
Right.
Sold everything for $8 billion.
Good profit.
That's a nice return on investment, my man.
Yeah, I think that worked out pretty well.
So, 1976.
I think there are a lot of people that wish he still owned the Braves. 'cause
Absolutely.
Liberty Media is not the favorite amongst Braves country.
Oh, there's some big conglomerate. They're not going to spend but a certain amount of money
No,
on the team.
Look, they've got a lot of irons in the fire, and
The Braves are just one of them.
again, when you have a physical owner in place that cares about the team, that
Much
wants them
better.
to be successful, that's a lot better. And nameless, faceless organization, not the favorite.
No, never. No one ever loves a nameless, faceless corporate entity.
Right.
Not at all. All right, this day in 1985, Dan Marino passes for a record 421 yards and 4 touchdowns. Dolphins win the AFC Championship game, going to the Super Bowl and get smacked by the 49ers. Only Super Bowl Dan Marino ever played.
I was going to say the thought process was he'll get back. He's definitely going to play in another Super Bowl. Never happened.
Nope, never happened. Got close a couple times, but they had no defense. They had no running game. It was all just Dan Marino and the receivers.
Yep.
This one's interesting. This day in 1994, Nancy Kerrigan is leaving practice at the U.S. Figure Skating Championships in Detroit. A guy named Shane Stant smacks Kerrigan on the knee with some, what was that?
It's like an iron pipe or something,
yeah,
right?
pipe. Then flees the scene. We know what that ended up happening. Jeff Gillooly, the wife of Tanya Harding, is part of this thing. Did Tanya Harding know? Didn't she know? It'll be a controversy forever. Nancy Kerrigan, I think, won the silver medal at the Olympics that year. Harding finished out of the medal race. She became a huge villain. Kerrigan became a darling. It was a mess. You ever see the movie?
I've not. I know the story.
So good.
Yeah.
The movie is phenomenal. The guy that plays Shane Stant, is hilarious. That movie, it was up for some. I forget the name of the movie now. I'm blanking on who played Tanya Harding.
Was it I, Tonya?
I, Tonya.
Wait, it's Margot Robbie.
Margot Robbie's phenomenal as Tanya Harding. That movie is so good. It's excellent. It is an excellent movie because it's funny in parts. It's sad in parts. It's wow, what a trailer park life in parts. The mom does not look good in the movie. Just saying.
Yeah.
There's a part in the movie where the mom, after the whole thing breaks, and Tanya, and again, this is a movie, so who knows how real all this is.
Sure.
But the mom comes to see her daughter, and all the press and media is living outside of Harding's house, right?
Yeah.
They come in, the mom comes in, gives her a hug, starts talking to her about everything that happened, and then Tanya Harding realizes the mom is wired.
Oh, no.
That's the kind of mom. Wanted to record it so she can make some money.
I've checked that out.
It's a really good movie. I, Tonya. It's really good. So anyway, this day in 1994, Nancy Kerrigan gets cracked in the leg by Shane Stant. Yeah, Jeff Gillooly doesn't come off well in the movie either.
Sure he doesn't.
Yeah. No. Anyway, one final note in the greatest day in the history of the world, 2014. Some dude named Jameis Winston throws a 13-yard touchdown pass to Kelvin Benjamin with 13 seconds left. Number 1 Florida State beats number 2 Auburn 34-31 to win the last BCS national championship game.
Boy, we've come a long way with championship format since then, haven't we?
Yes. Look at us.
It was so simple. You just had to be number 1 or 2 in the computers, and a month later you played for a national championship.
Yeah,
now, a lot more hoops to jump through.
But computers are like corporate entities. You can't scream and yell at a computer.
You can't, and that's why we're where we are today.
We can scream and yell at human beings. It's more fun.
Yeah, it's crazy. We used to wrap up the season like right now, before, like it was on the tail end of the final weekend of the NFL season.
Yep.
And now we go to divisional weekend.
Hey, look, I love expanded playoffs. I think it's great. But again, we got to, and we'll never change how we pick it. That's the problem. When you have human beings making decisions, not a lot of objectivity.
Well, the human beings aren't going to release their power once they have
No,
it.
not at all. Of course not. I do want to get this one really quick. 2016, Ken Griffey Jr. elected to the Baseball Hall of Fame, highest voting percentage ever. 437 out of 440 votes put Griffey Jr. in the Hall of Fame. That's 99.3. The 3 people that didn't vote for Ken Griffey Jr. should be banned from voting for the Hall of Fame ever. The fact that guy isn't unanimous is a joke.
Well, the people that vote for the Baseball Hall of Fame have their old school reasonings on a lot of these things, and they'll defend that to the death,
Ready?
unfortunately.
Babe Ruth wasn't unanimous.
That's usually the go-to.
You know, and look, nothing against Mariano Rivera. He belongs in the Hall of Fame. There's no doubt about it. But he should not have been the first unanimous Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
He shouldn't have been. I can give you a list of guys that should have been unanimous ahead of Mariano Rivera.
Baseball still has an old school mindset.
You know what? And we'll move on now. I'm going to say I try not to be a mean, nasty man. I'm trying to be nicer in my old age. All right, Firehouse Sub Text the Hour. We'll do our handoff with our buddy Jay Phillips as well on the halftime show. Terry Ford, Tyler Head, David Ayer. One last segment, then we'll bring the post-game show in here next on the game. We got so much to do in this last segment. We got the Firehouse Sub text the hour at 803-404-6100. We got the handoff to Jay Phillips, sponsored by Little Pigs on Alpine. What do you got there on the old text machine there, bud?
Nameless texter says, as a Jets fan, I hope they bring back Rex Ryan. He actually wants the job and brings success to the New York Jets.
Define success.
According to Rex Ryan is going to get the job.
Yeah, that's what Rex Ryan says. Yeah, it gets me. The first 2 years, they got in the AFC Championship game. But they were never looked at as a true Super Bowl threat. Let's just be honest here. And after year 2, Rex was a barely 500 coach. So the idea that he had this dynasty of winning with the Jets, he was more known for his foot fetish and his tattoos and, talking to the media. Let's just be honest.
And then he went to Buffalo and didn't really do much there.
Mediocre. He was
his track record after those 2 AFC Championship games is average.
What does it say? Hey, Jets fan, God love you. This is not to be mean to you. This tells you how desperate Jets fans are to call anything successful. The Rex Ryan era is their most successful era since they won a Super Bowl with Joe Willie Namath in the late 60s.
I can't remember, so you'll have to help me. So I'm being serious when I ask this, but was one of their AFC title game appearances the year that Brady got hurt?
No, that was 09.
They did beat New England one year to get to the AFC Championship game. Remember, that's when Bart Scott was talking about, couldn't stop a nosebleed and all that stuff. The only other time they made an AFC Championship game and got beat by the Dolphins like 24-0 when Richard Todd, I think, was the quarterback and Joe Walton was the head coach.
Yeah, the sack exchange. They had that little period right there. But, since Woody Johnson's owned them, they've had nothing. I actually saw a tweet about it today, and it was basically a follow-up. I did not read the piece from a few weeks ago.
Oh, you got to go get it. You have
I've read it now.
Did you read it?
I've read it now.
Oh.
And for those of you who don't know, there was a pretty long, piece by 3 different writers in The Athletic, and just it really detailed the dysfunction within. And look, Woody Johnson's nearly 80, but he has 2 teenage sons, and he talked about one of the meetings about a Madden rating on a player and different things. And there were some executives who said, "Listen, a lot of that's overblown," and it probably is. Truth is in the middle somewhere. But the fact is that in the quarter century he's owned the team, they stink. They're terrible. I mean, they're absolutely terrible. Yep. And even if Rex Ryan came back and the Patriots aren't the Patriots, the Bills are still the best team in that division. The Bengals will get their defensive issues fixed. The Chiefs are still the Chiefs for the foreseeable future, even if a few changes will be made. But with Mahomes at the helm, they'll be fine.
Chargers are
Harbaugh
coming.
is going to do his thing.
Yep, the Ravens are there.
Ravens are doing fantastic, and I'm not saying it because I'm a fan. Broncos back, and I think what Nix and Peyton are building is good, and they just need to get better. So the Jets, even if they come around and get to 10 or 11 wins, okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Get ready. You're going to get to 10 wins with what quarterback?
Yeah, who's quarterbacking?
Who's your head coach? Who's your GM?
Well, if you still have this ownership group,
doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
It does not matter.
Because they'll get in the way.
Well, let's say they stumble and bumble into something, right? They'll screw it up.
Yeah.
That's what they do.
I mean, look, the Dolphins had a lot of other problems this year that weren't the making of their owner. But remember, the only reason the Dolphins started to get better, well, I say the only reason, but one of the primary reasons that they got better is because their owner, who was a meddlesome know-nothing, was forced to step away from day-to-day operation for a bit.
And that gave them a chance to operate like a real franchise.
They're like, the shackles are off.
Good.
Yeah. Like we can do it. And I don't think people feel that way when it comes to the Jets. So, to those Jet fans out there, I wouldn't start holding my breath and Rex Ryan?
I know. I just,
no.
Here's the thing about it. If you're a Jets fan, what you do every night, you pray to the football gods, Woody Johnson will sell the team.
Well,
that's your hope. And he's not going to sell the team. That thing is $1 billion gold mine in New York City.
Yeah.
That thing is worth so much money. Woody Johnson will hold that until he passes away. Then you just hope the state taxes are so high that these kids, Brick and Mortar, or whatever the hell their name is.
Yeah, you're going to have a 25-year-old owner in a couple of years.
Exactly.
And it would be like Jed York. And for a little while, Jed York did treat it, like a fraternity party. But then he finally
got religion.
And now, the Niners, again, Niners had a lot of injury issues this year. That's why they stumbled back a little bit, not because of anything else. But listen, again, if it sounds mean from people around the NFL, so be it. But the Jets, I told Elijah this morning, and you mentioned like one little period there in the late or early 80s, and then a couple of times about 15 years ago. Other than that, one day in the history of Earth, the Jets got really fortunate and won the Super Bowl. One day in the history of Earth.
Yep.
That's what happened, Terry. That's what happened. And really, I don't know because I wasn't alive, but my hunch tells me that the NFL champion Baltimore Colts, who were, 2 touchdown plus favorites in that game, got out of the cold of Baltimore, Maryland, went down to beautiful Miami, right? And took advantage of the week-long lifestyle. And then said, oh, crap, we have to play?
Well, let me tell you, to your point there, it's so funny you said that. When you read the stories after that loss, well, my dad, Dean Ford, will tell you it's fixed. But anyway, the legit stuff, the players had their families, their friends there.
Yeah. They were on vacation in Miami,
partying on South Beach. They said, oh, we're going to beat the Jets drunk.
Yeah.
What happened?
Yeah, one day in the history of Earth.
That's it.
There you go.
What do you got coming up, my friend?
A lot of basketball and
Jay, Elijah, post-game show next. Tyler, Dave, nice work.